Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Frank. As Brian said, I do all the technical support, training, etc. here. So this presentation today is basically, if you were at the ARA show in Vegas, I'm just going to basically recap everything. The uniqueness of this equipment is that it goes from concrete to hardwood. So with one machine, you can do both systems. The only requirement is that you change the tools. So that's what we're going to, we'll demonstrate that today. But what we've decided to do, and it's still a little bit fluid, is we're breaking out our systems into two categories. You have your DIY, and those are, basic systems based on basic criteria, questions that you would ask to pre-qualify that customer. We have some really basic, simple systems. And then you have the professional contractor. So this is the guy that does this in and out. He might have more challenges, thicker coatings to remove. He's got time constraints. So you want him to be as efficient as possible on the job site. Our DIY systems, for the most part, work on all floors. With exceptions, you have what's called the range of concrete. So, but we're going to talk about that. You don't need to write anything down. What we've done is that we created what's we call here, it's like a visual tooling guide. So basically what you do is that you got your machine picture here, and then you would just basically, not sure if everyone can see this here. But in this illustration here, we have a series of coatings. So we've got glue, epoxy, thin set, surface prep, and cure and seal. So in our most DIY, most basic system, all of these challenges can be removed with one tool. All you do is put this one tool on this machine, and you can do all of these removals and prep and all that kind of stuff. The pre-qualifying question is the thickness of the product. Whenever you have products that are 1/8 of an inch or 3 mils thin, this tool with this machine effectively removes it. When you start getting into the thicker systems, that's where you go, where you jump into like a professional grade system. And as you can see, there's more criteria on the system. Here we have a flow chart asking the thickness of the surface, and then we even go down into the hardness of the concrete. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but concrete is not all the same. It has different hardness levels, and we have a test kit for the professional contractor to determine the hardness of the concrete. Based on the reading that you get from this tool, you would then select the appropriate quality tool. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply run through this hardness test. I'm not sure if anyone's ever seen it, but this is a good way to kind of expose yourself to this test. I'm just going to bring this in a little bit closer. So, Workmaster, we identify concrete into 3 ranges. It's either hard, medium, or soft. So hard concrete is typically defined by the visual aspect of hard concrete. So you can kind of see here the hard concrete right there. It's dark, it's power troweled. These are tough floors here. They're power troweled, they're hard to cut open. In the middle here you have your medium, and that's kind of where you want to be. That's your standard concrete. And then you've got your soft concrete here, and that's kind of like a rained out slab, or say a slab where the contractor got away from them and they had to throw a ton of water on it just to keep it working. So we identify concrete into those 3 basic ranges. And based on that, we've developed tooling to effectively work on those ranges. So as you can see here, hard concrete is defined as a 9. And for hard concrete, you would actually use what we call a soft bond tool. Medium concrete is a medium bond, and a soft bond, you actually use a hard bond tool. The reason why you use a hard bond tool is because anything is going to cut soft concrete, but you need your tool to last. So that's why this is called a hard bond. So just remember when you have hard concrete, you use a soft tool, and soft concrete, you use a hard tool. So it's the opposite of one another. So the way you determine what kind of concrete you have is that you use what's called a Mohs hardness test kit. This is a series, this is actually from the mineral world, from the gemology world. It's used to define the surface hardness or abrasive strength of a surface. So it starts with a 9 and it goes down to like a 2. And the 2 pick is made out of plastic. So if you can scratch concrete with a 2 pick and it's, then you know your concrete's very soft. But in most cases, concrete is harder, not softer. So what you'll do, say you were on the slab here, and this is like, again, this is for the professional contractor. He's got a lot of square footage. He needs to be very efficient on the job. That's where you have to line him up with the right tool. If you line your customer up, you don't have this information, and the customer gets the wrong tool, then he's gonna experience low productivity. He's gonna get tooling glaze. He's gonna be frustrated. So you want to avoid that. So the pre-qualification is really, really important. So basically what you start doing is you start with the highest pick, and that is we're going to start with a 9 pick. That is the hardest pick. So that should be able to scratch a diamond, and then you start working your way down. When your pick stops scratching or makes a sound where it doesn't sound like it's scratching the floor, you reach your hardness level. So if we start with a 9 here, and you don't put a lot of pressure on it, you just kind of rest your palm here on the surface. You start scratching the surface. You probably won't be able to see it, but you can definitely hear a scratching sound. So I know that my floor is softer than a 9. So what I start doing is I start working, I just turn the pick over. Now I'm on an 8. And again. So that's good news. Now you're moving towards the medium range of concrete. So you're on the right track. Here we start with a 7. I can hear it, but it's not scratching quite as much, and it's kind of gliding over the floor. So I know, especially with these rocks here, I know that I'm getting close to knowing what the concrete range is. And when I put the sticks on here, right now, although I can hear it, it's not making a scratching sound, and it's gliding very easily. So based on this test, I know that my concrete is between 6 and 7. If I look at my chart here, I've got it numbered 9 to 1. I'm right in between 6 and 7. So I'm around the white tool here. So I'm at the medium bond. So now the customer can relay that information based on the test result, and you know you're gonna have a good rental because this is medium concrete. This is what you want. If the customer had it was scratching at a 7 or an 8, or it wasn't even scratching at a 9, you know that customer is going to struggle, and you want to use our gold tools. Depending on the square footage as well, like that is very hard concrete. So you might want to pre-qualify and just make sure that you've got the right machine for the job. So in a nutshell, that is basically how we determine the bond. And as mentioned previous, it's all outlined here in the visual tooling guide. The first question is the coating thicker than 1/8 of an inch? If it is, you go with 1, we'll talk about the PCDs, but if it isn't, you would go no, and then that's where you want to do your scratch test. For the DIY system, you basically want to, the tooling's white, it matches this tool. You want to make sure, pre-qualify your customer and ask them questions to, is your concrete light gray? Does it look like standard concrete? Is it shiny? Does it you want a good slab. You want a decent slab here, and then with this tool, you're going to have all sorts of success with this 110 volt machine. I'm just going to go jump back to the contractor. If your coating was over 1/8 of an inch thick, we have what's called a PCD. PCD stands for polycrystalline diamond. And what this tool does, it actually has a ripper on it. So you can kind of see that there. That is a PCD, and that rips the surface. So that's for coatings that are 1/8 of an inch or more. These tools are color coded. They're directional tools when you put them on the machine. So again, for ease of use, the green ones go on the outside or where the plate spins right, and the yellow ones go on the inside where the plate spins left. So we try and make everything really straightforward and easy to use with our visual references and our colors. So there's not a whole lot of confusion. So this is the boss here. If you had a chance at the show to try it out, you saw how kind of versatile and easy it is to use. The machine in itself weighs just under 200 pounds. It is powered, it's a 110-volt machine, so it has a 1.5 horsepower motor on it, and then it has what we call a variable frequency drive, and that is this here. The variable frequency drive does a lot of things for you and your rental customer. Number one, the variable frequency drive will not pull more than 15 amps. So when you plug it into the wall, it's a lot of machines have what's called an inrush current, a single speed machine. So when you have an inrush current, what can happen is it can pop your breaker. It starts popping your breaker right away, so you get a lot of nuisance tripping. The VFD, the variable frequency drive, completely eliminates that from the situation. So it makes just your startup and overall general machine it's easier to use. The VFD also has a speed range, so it can go from 400 pad speed right up to about 1200. So that's what makes this machine so versatile. Why it works great on concrete, but then it also goes right into hardwood, because you need to have some speed range. If you have a single speed machine or a machine that maybe varies by 100 or 200 RPM, there's no way you can do the amount of jobs that the boss can do. So we can go from grinding concrete right up to a high speed polish, all with one machine, because we have a VFD. There's your handle there. So to adjust your handle, it's just a pull pin. And you just adjust the handle where you like. And it's easy as that. And to start it up, we have a dead man switch. So if you accidentally hit the lever, you're not going to start it up. So it's an incredibly safe machine to use. Once it's plugged in, you basically push a little button on the handle, and then you just turn it off. We won't turn it on because I'm going to tip the machine back. The machine itself comes apart as well. It comes apart in 3 separate pieces. The handle just unbolts from the machine. And then the power unit, you can see it's almost like a suitcase here, just unscrews itself here, and you just lift that off, and then you just have the base unit. So, if your rental customer is in a hatchback or something like that, this goes into the back of a hatchback with no problem. All right, to tip it back, you just simply pull back. And that's the bottom of the machine here. So how this technology works and how it's so different from, say, a single head machine or just a 2-head machine or a square buff is that it allows you to do all those tasks with one machine. And how we do that is that the machine actually uses 6 counter-rotating heads. So that action allows the machine to be incredibly smooth. It's never going to pull on you. Like a swing machine, you don't have to lift the handle up and lift it down to move it right or left. So this machine is incredibly user-friendly. So to put the tools on, you have to use what's called the compression foam. And that's basically like the shock on a car. Without the compression foam allows to any absorption of the floor, any roughness of the floor, so it doesn't transmit into the user's handle there, into their hands. So basically what you do is that you put the compression foam on, so, and then the tool just slides in what we call the grommets here. And that's it. You put 6 of them on, now you're ready to go. Say you wanted to change the machine from a concrete machine into a machine that can do wood decks. All you do is basically you put your appropriate tools on there, you slide this plate on, slide this plate off, and you slide this one on. So that's how easy it is to turn this from a concrete grinder into a hardwood deck sander, or you know, if you've got cupped boards or anything like that on a wood deck, this machine is incredibly effective at removing that. If you just want to use your sandpaper, again, it's a similar plate, and the tooling just sticks onto that. You just put it in your machine. Now you have a hardwood floor sander. So you've got all these machines in one just by changing out the tools. The operation, the VFD, everything else is always the same. So your user has the same experience with the machine. All he does is change the tools when he wants to do something different with the machine. Now, one of the huge advantages, and you can kind of see it here, is that this machine is also an edger. So it gets right up to 1/8 of an inch of the wall. The only thing that's stopping it from getting to the wall is the dust cert there. So we'll demonstrate that here, but that's how close that machine gets to the edge of the wall. So that's unheard of in pretty much any other piece of equipment there.
One other element.
Yep.
Polishing and buffing.
Yep, and if you want to buff a floor, say you've got a customer that's stripping wax off a floor, you can turn this into like a buffer, a stripper over VCT tile. And if you just want to refurbish a floor and you can give it a nice shine, you can turn it into a high-speed buffer. So again, the VFD allows for all this. It goes from 400 right up to 1200 pad speed. And that's pad speed, that's rotational speed of the machine. Talking about the pad speed, that's why we get so much production out of this 110 machine. You imagine if you had a single head machine, you have your diamond, and it's turning all the way in a circle here, right? So every revolution, by the time a single head machine makes one revolution, this machine here has probably spun about 400 times. So that's why it's a small package, but it's highly productive. Also, we have tools in the middle of the machine, so we're 100% cutting the machine all the time. Any questions on that? I'll just quickly, we talked about the rotation there, the question was made. So we know that these plates are always going to spin clockwise or right. So that's where you would put your PCB there on the plug and go plate. And then on the inside plates, they spin left. So that's how you get that, that's so easy to set up the machine for doing that.
And they say right and left on them.
Yeah, and they say right, left on there as well.
You got a question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so can you explain what comes with the machine? So you've named a number of different heads, but when you order that machine, what heads come with that machine?
Sure.
So it allows you to either do concrete and wood, or do you have to order everything separate? Please explain.
Sure, yeah, no problem. Thanks for the question. So basically what comes with the machine is obviously you get the machine, and in the standard accessories box includes all your plates and all your hardware. So it comes with these plates here. So if you want to put sandpaper on them, it comes with those plates. And then it also comes with your plug and go plates. So these plates are where you would put any of your other bits. You know, you put your wood tools. For the professional contractor, you would put any other bits. So it comes with all the accessories. It comes with extra shear pins. So if you're happen to be in the field there and you break your shear pins, it comes with extra shear pins. Blue, we recommend a little bit of red Loctite in there. It comes with extra grommets, which are in the machine here. These are consumables. These are like $1 each, but we ship them out with a bunch. And then it comes with extra foams. So from a machine perspective, you don't need any extra parts right away. You don't have to stock your shelves with all these extra pads, discs, or anything. The machine is completely self-sufficient that way. The only thing that you have to add are the tools. So we recommend starting out with our most basic systems, and that's our concrete system and our wood system, which is, we'll demonstrate that. But we don't use paper to take off that first layer of wood or to refinish. We actually use a diamond tool. What that gives you is a tremendous amount of life. So these tools are rated for up to 30,000 square feet. And these tools on medium concrete go anywhere between 16 and 20,000 square feet. So those are the only two things that you have to buy, are two sets of tools.
PCDs are 100,000.
Yeah, the PCDs are very long wearing, and the reason why is the PCDs are designed to only remove the coating. You don't actually grind the concrete. So, anywhere between 60 and 100,000 square feet out of a set of PCDs is not uncommon. Let's put this back on here. So that's it. The machine's ready to use. Yeah. Any other questions? I'll just keep kind of rolling here.
Will there be a chart that recommends what speed?
Absolutely. So in the tooling guide itself. So I'm just going to bring this up nice and close here because Angie probably has a question there, or has an email version. This comes laminated on the machine as well. The tooling guide. Oh, it doesn't come laminated? Okay. Well, you've got access to this. We normally laminate them, but Virginia Abrasives, they'll send you that tooling guide however they like. So basically what it is once you've identified what condition you have and the tool, you'll see the speed range here, and it's anywhere between 400 and 800. So we try to make the guide as comprehensive as possible. And then here we even have a picture of the recommended surface to work on, which is just your standard gray concrete.
Another question?
Sure.
What happens to the machine / diamonds when the rental person runs it at 4,000 RPM when you should be at 200 RPM?
So the good thing is that you can't run the machine at 4,000 RPM. So you're covered there. Yeah. So if you're gonna run the machine a little bit quicker, that's fine. The machine is gonna top out at about 1,200. So depending on what you're doing, you're only pulling 15 amps. So you're gonna find that the VFD again is gonna limit itself. If you're going through some really thick glue and you've got the machine turned up all the way, well, the machine isn't going to give you 1,200 pad speed if you're encountering a lot of resistance. So the machine is going to kind of adjust itself. So we found in most cases, if you run them fast, it's not the end of the world. On a soft floor, if you run it really fast, again, you're going to get a lot of load, but that's where you'll start getting your most wear on the tools. And on a very, very hard floor, when you start running it fast, you'll generate heat. So you're gonna lose your production. So it's kind of telling the operator that, hey, I need to turn it down in order to maintain that production level.
Yeah, I have a question. So you've talked about grinding of concrete. What about carbide scrapers for taking off paint off of concrete and you don't want to grind? What tooling do you use there?
We don't use scrapers, so we don't have scrapers available for the machines. We usually find that when guys are removing paint, they're either putting another surface on there, or there's some required abrasion that's necessary. So in some cases, I've run scrapers. We've really tried scrapers here, but they work in such a small area of that we found where we just don't. We just find that the diamond tools are good enough. But I understand what you're saying is you basically want to remove the glue and you don't, or anything like that, and you don't want to abrade the floor at all. I get that. But on any floor, you're always going to have a low spot. So even when you're using a scraper, you're still going to have to do some type of hand grinding. You're never going to get all that glue off. I mean, in a perfect world, that'd be awesome. I wish that was the case. Does that kind of answer your question? Okay. All right. Well, without further ado here, we'll start the machine up. Miles, do you want to turn on the vacuum? We've got our vacuum just placed outside the work area here, so hopefully we won't get that the sound there. Before I tip the machine back, we have a totally adjustable dust plate. So the adjustable dust plate, all you do is you just Velcro it. And you basically just set it so the tooling is just about 1/8 of an inch off the floor there. You want it about 1/8 of an inch gap between the dust skirt and the tool. You want a little bit of incoming air always coming in, and that kind of keeps that vacuum system sucking up dust. Right? Then we just adjust the handle. Just the standard vacuum hose, 2 inches. You slide in there. We've got a power cord here like so. And basically what you do is you adjust the speed right to the middle point there. You can see there's a little blue knob. I don't know if you can see it on the screen there. There's a little blue knob with a little white mark. So I just set it to the middle, and then I just start from there. So as I mentioned, starting is pretty easy. You just push down on that little button here and just pull it out. Just make sure we install that right. Right, got a little. You can see there, I'm not sure if you can see it on the video there, but you go right up to the edge of the wall there. So you don't need a separate piece of equipment in order to do your edging. This machine does both the edge and the field. So that's a huge time saver. But we actually have another product that we're rolling out, and it's called polished concrete in a box. So basically what this product will do, it allows you to turn this machine into a concrete polisher. So one of the challenges of polishing concrete is doing the field and the edge, and getting the same results. So with this one machine, you can do both there.
So while you were going,
Are there any questions?
Can you run the machine on 2 heads for line removal?
It is possible, yeah, you can do that. You know, that would be more like your professional grade system for sure. Where the user is comfortable using the machine. You know, so in that scenario there, what you would do is that you could take off the outside plates here, like so. They just unplug. And then what you do here is want to leave your desk skirt on. Miles, do you want to turn that back on?
Great.
Yeah, you could suspend the machine with some buffing pads, or but the machine is being held up by the duster. Here, that's about a 6-inch stripe. Not sure if you can see that, if that's coming up in the video there. You saw the machine does bounce a little bit, so you definitely want to be like paying attention to what you're doing. But overall, it's definitely possible to do that, and you can kind of, not sure if you can see it here, but you've got a nice clean swash there of ground concrete. So if you had a line that thickness, then you'd be able to do that.
The expected coverage for grinding medium concrete, 300 square feet an hour, 600 square feet an hour, question mark.
Yeah, I'd say on mediums, so say you were doing a double car garage, it's about 600 square feet. You're probably, I like to go in a north-south and east-west direction, especially if I'm doing a coating, because I want to get that floor as round as possible. I'd like to give myself like an hour to an hour and a half to do that. So you're probably on medium concrete, that there's not a lot of stuff in your way. You're probably easily at 500 square plus an hour easily. So it is a productive machine, because you have to remember the entire head is abrading the floor at once. It's not some tool spinning in a circle, right? You got all 6 heads, they're all cutting there. So the small little machine gives you a lot of production. I mean, you saw that line here, right? In an hour, I could probably, walk this thing, like 100 feet. So we're going to set it up now for the wood. And if you have any questions, just feel free to ask.
So, while Frank is doing the changing over the plates to the wood, just wanted to come back to the carbide blades. Why we don't use them, Frank gave you an indication. But one of the things that makes our system and technology so unique is, I'm going to say that 95% of all of the contractors that are out there, even the DIY customers, they're using the machine to make some type of topical coating. It could be glue, it could be thin set, it could be paint, epoxy, whatever the case may be. Typically, what we find is a lot of people are doing their own garages, and they want to put some type of epoxy coating back that they've either bought at Rona or Lowe's down in the States, or Home Depot, or whatever the case may be. If they're putting glue down to put down carpet tile, for example, the new carpet tiles that are out that require a special type of glue, all of those types of products require a minimum CSP rating, concrete surface prep profile, I should say, of 3. So one of the unique things about our technology is that these 16 grit tools that you see here, they give a CSP3 rating, and you can get that on our website, and it'll be coming up on Virginia Abrasives explaining it. But here's the difference too. When you take a planetary machine or a single head machine, that technology, as Frank said, turns in a circular fashion. So if any of you have, I'm assuming all of you have run these types of machines, and you look at your floor profile, the scratch in the floor is circular. That's why a lot of companies, when they're saying we want to have shot blasting because we want a CSP3 profile, And a lot of the planetaries can't give it the same way as our technology can. We call it scratching. Because our heads run in different directions, when you see the scratch pattern in the floor, it's not this. It actually looks like this. The scratches are created that create higher and more peaks and valleys. And it's those peaks and valleys that allows the product to bond better. So when you get a pull test done on a floor that's been profiled by a Workmaster machine, I can tell you it will not fail. And we have a lot of manufacturers that make these types of products that recommend ours. As a matter of fact, yesterday my wife was looking up about removing glue and everything and why a CSP rating. And Workmaster comes up as one of the recommended machines in that area.
Yeah, we have a question.
Yeah, so Brian, I heard at the show that there's a difference between you're calling a planetary head system versus this is considered a multi-head system, correct? So you've explained a little bit about maybe the difference between them, but can you please explain why a planetary is different than this type of machine and what is the advantages of this versus planetary? Like a little bit.
Thanks, Dad. Richard, use the camera. Yeah. So the planetary, and they've been around for a long time. A planetary has a single shaft and a large plate that turns clockwise, typically. And on it, it will have anywhere from 3 plates up to 6 plates. But normally in the industry, it's 3. That's the way it started out. And that's typically what you'll see, especially on the smaller machines that are in the rental market. They'll have 3 plates. Those 3 plates are driven by centrifugal force. In other words, the big plate is turning in one direction clockwise, and the centrifugal force of the pressure of that plate that's on there turns counterclockwise. So even when it says our machine, and don't get me wrong, fellas, all of the manufacturers that you're dealing with that are out there that you're selling into the market are all excellent manufacturers. The difference between planetary and ours is strictly a technology. When you think about that motion, although the main plate may be turning at 1200 RPM, the smaller plates aren't. They can never turn at the same speed as the bigger plate. So they're always turning at a lower speed. And because there's a gap in the middle, when you watch a planetary go across the floor, there's this area in the middle that's not being profiled. So it has to wait. That's why you walk so slowly with a planetary. You need to give those heads enough opportunity to properly grind the concrete. So a planetary you walk much slower with, whereas our machine you can walk much faster with. We're walking slow here to make sure everything is looking good so you guys can see it, but I can say that in a lot of situations, we're walking with our machine significantly faster than that. Okay. Now,
Sorry, Tad, you had another question?
yeah,
No, I'm fine. Good.
So the single head machine, which is very common in the industry, is just one plate, as we know. There's different manufacturers out there. Edco makes a really good product. They've been around with the single head. We've seen Husqvarna's come out with them. So different manufacturers have them.
Word has a question.
Okay, yeah. So they are single use, single purpose products. And they work. Their productivity is whatever, depending on which model you're using and what type of surface you're taking off. But it doesn't give you a CSP3 rating, period. And that's one of the challenges. So when you look at our technology to a planetary, what we're talking about is, in our case, think of this. If you can think of a hand grinder, how many of you have ever taken a 5-inch cup wheel, 7-inch cup wheel, whatever the case may be, and put it on the floor? Have you noticed something? It will always cut faster than the big machine that you're working with. And why is that? It's got nothing to do with weight. It's got to do with speed. So in our case, our technology, our patent As we see here is 6 heads, 8 heads, 10 heads, depending on the model, 5 heads on our smaller one. We're really, in this case, 6 high-speed hand grinders in a box. And that's the best way we can describe it. Okay, Tad's got another question.
Yeah, so I think some of the reps are asking about square foot per tooling maybe. So the advantages of what you're talking about, does that increase the square footage of the tooling and so on and so forth? Like for example, the 16 grit concrete tooling gets approximately how many square feet compared to, let's say, an Edco machine or vice versa?
Okay, that's a good question, Tad. So typically,
You went mute.
You went mute, Brian. Good.
You might have to repeat that.
okay, so with an Edco, typically you're getting around 3,000 to 5,000 square feet. And on our technology, you're going to get, if it's really softer, you're going to get a minimum of 15. But typically, you're always getting around 20 to 25,000 square feet out of our tools. And you're getting a higher production level. And you're also reducing the labor time on the job because we're grinding from edge to edge with the same profile.
Gordon has a question.
Gord?
Yep. Brian, if a DIYer has the boss on a job site and he breaks shear pins and he's all out of shear pins, can you run the machine? Do you need to run it on all 6 heads or can you run it with less than 6 heads?
That's a good question. And that happens for sure, because sometimes the rental store does not send out the spare grommets or spare shear pins with it. So in that case, all we do is we remove, go ahead, Frank, we remove.
Yeah, in most cases, if you're gonna break a shear pin on the machine, and this isn't a regular occurrence. I mean, this is you hitting something hard on the floor, like this is user error. This isn't just something that randomly happens. So that's why we have the shear pin, because changing the shear pin is a 3-minute operation versus, having to go back to the shop and replace the machine, bring another machine out. But in most cases, we found if you are gonna break a shear pin, it's gonna probably be the front heads, because that's what you're running the machine into that, right? So if you were to say break a shear pin here, and this plate is no longer useful, what you could do is actually just run the machine like this. So you'd run the machine on 5 heads. Basically, it's safe because you've got your outer head spinning, so the machine is balanced. Worst case scenario, you break another shear pin. You could run the machine with as little as 4 heads. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Ideally, what we do is, what you want to do is you just send your customer out with a few extra shear pins. You tell them to walk the floor, and anything that's sticking out of the floor, you just want to grind it off, and you're good to go. On a deck, the machine will, any screws sticking out, the machine will just break those, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, the shear pins are, they're not easy to break. They're not, you got to be hitting something repeatedly over and over again.
So, well, just to that point, we have videos that are available to you that demonstrate how to change a shear pin, the actual durability of our machines, where we intentionally, you'll see me trying to damage the machine intentionally, smacking into a steel grate, launching it off of a platform. So these machines, all of our machines come with 3-year warranties on parts and that. And we give that because they stand up. They're designed to stand up in all types of rental conditions. And that's why we don't get a lot of failures on the product as a result of that.
I'll just quickly demonstrate here how to change a shear pin. This plate is just from our warehouse. It's not really built up yet. But basically what you have is that you have you've got your screw there. That's your pin. and then it just screws into the back. You want to put a little bit of red Loctite, but that's it. That's all you got to do. So if that breaks, you just replace it. You basically, you just, you know, it unscrews, or in most cases it's missing, and then you just put a new one on. So that's how quick you can be up and out there. And that machine, if you break a belt, it's going back to the shop. So your rental is completely over. Alrighty. Brian, did you want to say anything else? So your customer can rent the machine to do his garage floor. When he's all done that, he can take the same machine, change the tools, and now he can do his wood deck. He's going to be the hero of the weekend hero there. He can do all these perfectly with one machine. So what we've done is that we've changed the tools. So we're running our turbo rasp tools, and that is a diamond coated metal tool. So you don't have to change any sandpaper. The advantage of this tool, it cuts very hard without leaving without ruining the wood. But it really gets that deck flat. In our area, we found that we have a lot of cut boards. You know, people have put years of you know, paint and all that kind of stuff. So not needing paper and just using a diamond tool is not only super quick, it saves a lot. You get a ton of life out of those tools. Go ahead. So again, same operation, you just push a little button. So the nice thing about the system is that you can run in either direction. So these boards are actually, they're quite close, but they're quite cut. So you can kind of see that we're taking off the edges there, and then we'll get into the middle. But these ones here are a good example of a heavily cut board. But you don't have to worry about running with the grain or against the grain, because the tools are counter rotating. That doesn't matter. They cut in either direction, so you can go along the board or across the board there. What's the 50 grit. So these are our 50 grit tools. We have tools that are more aggressive. We can go right down to 16. But we found that in the rental market there, safety is key. You don't want to give someone a hugely aggressive tool that's going to ruin their deck. This tool is slightly slower, but it's going to safely mill down the floor, and you're going to get nice results. And what you're not going to get is a lot of scratches. So you're not going to have to go on the back end of that, and all of a sudden now spend the rest of your day pulling out the scratches. So the 50 or the 70 grit tool, they're a good choice for that. And again, the machine goes right to the edge, so you can get right to the edge of your deck. Any questions? No questions? Yep. So what you can do after that is you can go right into your paper. So you're able to go, you can put the machine back once you got all that paint off, and basically just want to unplug your machine there. And then you can just grab your sanding disc, like so, and you can go with a 36 grit and up. In our case there, after this tool, we probably jump from the 50 into either an 80 or 100, potentially a 120, and then that's it, you're all done. You're done with your deck. Now, same tool, I don't know if you're gonna have a lot of engineered floors out there, but the same tool can go right onto a regular hardwood floor. So if you were doing your inside, you can actually use the sandpaper or the turbo ras tools to remove a urethane off your floor. So again, you can take that machine from outside right to inside.
Yeah, hold on to there if you don't mind. Sure. Yeah, just run it there so that you can see.
Oh, I should just run it up.
Yeah. Miles, I'm gonna fire up the vacuum.
Again, same tool. So what I demonstrated there is that was an uneven surface as well. Because you have the 6 heads versus 1 head spinning in a circle, this machine is really good at bridging different surface types. If you're at the show there, we had these 6 pavers and they're all at different heights. And we were able to run all over them without the machine buckling or jumping or anything like that, because they're passing, they're creating the bridging, they're eliminating the bridging effect.
So if you don't mind me speaking to it, you can't see what's going on here, but typically what we're dealing with here is a typical hardwood floor. This is an oak floor. This actually had aluminum oxide finish on it, factory finish. We've removed that with the machine. We've also put bona traffic down on it. We've removed that with the machine. Typically what we've got, and you can't see it right now, but the scratch pattern that this is left in the floor will only take 1 other grit of paper to remove the final scratches. Unless they're going to stain, you can usually do a floor like this in 2 steps. So in the industry, we have a number of people are using machines for hardwood. 1,000-footer, typical with a belt sander, your multi-drive, and your edger is 1,000-footer. It takes about 3 days to 4 days, depending on the situation. We have testimony from different contractors out there that are using our technology. You save a full day on a 1,000-footer when you use this technology. So, and not just that, but you get a better finish because it flattens the floor. You're not dealing with stall marks, chatter marks, divots, and all those types of things when you're dealing with this technology. So it really is effective in the industry. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So I know the answer to this, but I'd like you guys to explain. There's a lot of people that live on the shorelines of the United States, especially the Northeast, but wood docks or boat docks, a lot of that, especially in Florida as well as up in the Northeast. Can you explain how that machine can or cannot work on wood docks?
Sure. Just bear with me 1 second. That's a really good question.
Yeah, to kind of answer, I think Brian is bringing out a palette, so we're gonna show the machine's capability of bridging. Yeah, absolutely, any type of wood dock, is not a problem, and you just treat it the same way that you would just treat your regular deck. You use the same turbo rafts tools.
So Frank, real quick, Frank and Brian. So when you explain this too, explain the cord situation. How far can a cord go plugged into a 110? What size of cord? What gauge? And how long, basically,
Yeah,
can you go?
Normally, we recommend, just use the kind of cord that you need. But, if you're running a heavy duty, a 12 gauge cord, you could run it between, easily run it between, 100 and 150 feet with no problems. The key, what we had here this morning, we had the cord coiled up on itself. So, the cord was actually creating an electromagnetic effect. So as soon as we just ran the cord straight, it was fine. So the machine threw off a bit of an error code there telling us that we straightened out the cord and it was all good. So yeah, I would say safely, you could easily run about 150 feet of cord though. Again, the VFD is making that possible. If you have a machine with no VFD, you have to put 20 amps through an inrush current. This machine here is taking that AC power, it's storing it in the capacitors of the drive, and then it's feeding the motor. So that's why our technology, that's why we can run these really long lengths, is because we're leveraging electrical technology with a VFD. A lot of manufacturers don't do that, but we want to make this machine as easy to use and work out all those kind of power issues that a lot of people have out there in the industry.
Kevin?
Is the plug a standard 110 plug or is it a twist lock plug?
No, it's a standard 110 plug, yeah. So what you want is any extension cord, and you just want it to be grounded. You just need to have a ground on that. So, yeah. Yeah, it's just a regular plug. Well, this connection wall.
Yeah. And the thing is you want to run, you don't want your household extension cord. You want something that's in a 12 gauge environment so that there's got some beef to it.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're just doing your deck and stuff like that, you have a 14 gauge cord and you're at 50 feet, you're going to be good to go. I mean, this is if you're, running 150 feet and you're on a deck in all these scenarios, right? It's just, depending on your scenario, you just adjust to but it just uses a 110. So this is pretty much what we have out there in the field, right?
Kevin, did you have another question?
Yes. Nobody really said, but does the machine come with a cord from the factory, or is that something the customer's going to have to supply?
The rental agency has to supply it.
Thank you.
So I brought out a pallet. I just went and randomly grabbed the pallet. You can see that this pallet is in great shape. But this is indicative of what a lot of boat docks are. Not necessarily as wide a gap as what we're going to see here, but I know in our marina, this was about the size of the gap for our dock.
Want to raise that duster maybe a little bit?
Yeah. Now, you probably heard a little bit of noise because we were hitting nails. But here's your dog. The nice thing about it is you can't use any other technology to do a dock. Any questions on that?
Yeah, pretty cool there. Like I say, we've just gone from concrete, we did a paint stripe, a line stripe. Went from inside wood, outside wood, and even a simulation of a deck of a wood dock, that's pretty extreme gapping there. I don't think you come across too many scenarios, but in all cases, you see how easy that machine is to operate, and it's because the heads are counter rotating. It really makes it a DIY friendly piece of equipment.
So now we got, oh, Tad, you got a question? Are you unmuted, Tad? Yeah, can you unmute yourself, Tad?
There you go. All right. So the wood dock, I think, is really special, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of rental per se on a wood dock. But the thing that I like about this, and maybe you can expand on this, Brian or Frank, you got the gaps there, which are cumbersome. But the other thing too is if I would run that machine, let's say over that wood floor deck, 6 inches or 5 inches, maybe one plate over that deck, is that machine going to skip, hop, or is it going to lose plates? Does it always have to have pressure on the plates, or will they fall off?
So are we talking about if you actually take the machine and go out over the edge of the deck itself?
Correct.
Yeah, well, you can see here, I was doing that with this pallet. And you can go out 3 to 4 inches, not that you need to, but you can go out 3 to 4 inches out over the edge of a deck, out over the edge of a landing. And that's one of the advantages too, when we think about landings and loading docks and stair landings, you have the ability with the machine to actually go out over the edge. And when you think about someone that's doing a lot of loading docks in commercial situations, or even if they're doing concrete patios, for example, or pool decks, now there's another thing where the machine really gets utilized is doing pool decks. If they got exposed aggregate, they want to take the exposed aggregate down because it's hurting their feet, but they want to flatten it. But they want to leave the grooves in between because they still want the safety factor. That's one of the nice advantages of our machine, is that it flattens off the tops of the exposed aggregate, and you can go right over the edge of the pool deck. And you don't have to worry about it snapping away on you. so that you can go out and come back, as you saw me doing with the wood deck here as well. So that's another advantage of this technology and another rental potential for customers.
Just to kind of technically answer your question there, Tad, is you always want some pressure on some point of that plate. So if you move the machine so far over a surface where the entire plate is just free spinning in the air, that is not recommended. So you need to have a little bit of back pressure, and that's just from a safety perspective as well. You don't need to go with that, but yeah, as Brian said, 2-3 inches, not a problem, because you've got 4 inches of you've got between 3 and 4 inches of contact still on the floor. So that's totally doable, and we do that all the time. One of the things that we do here is high rises, all the landings, for the firewells. We're always in there grinding, and we go right off the edge of the top stair there, and it's not problematic.
Yeah, and the other thing too, mentioning, the other application is a lot of the high rises, they build a concrete deck as part of it. And what they've found sometimes that the deck, the pour actually is not draining properly. And so they'll take our machine and they'll actually grind the patio and grind it so that they can go right over the edge to give it a little bit of an increased flow for the water to run off.
Yeah, slope to drain. Yeah, that happens here a lot.
Yeah, especially in Vancouver, they have a problem understanding how to pour concrete in some situations. But any other questions? Okay, so we'd like to bring you to the last part of the presentation, and this is polished concrete in a box. And this really, at the ARA show, really had a tremendous amount of interest, because this is designed for the DIY customer. It's also designed for the contractor. You'll have a lot of contractors who are doing prep, or they're doing coatings and that, and they get a customer that wants to, or a couple of customers that wants to have their garage or basement floor polished. And they don't want to necessarily go out and have to buy all the different components to get into the, to do it. This is a retail product that the rental stores can now have, that they can actually sell. So it's a revenue stream from a retail perspective. And when we talk to some of them, they really like that idea. So it's polished concrete in a box. It comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 boxes, and it also comes with the polishing pads. And I'll just very quickly. This is a 3000 grit polishing pad. It's diamond impregnated. We use this between the grits, between the 400 and 800 grit, to take off any smear from the resin itself, and then we polish it with it. So to give you an idea, the boxes come numbered. So this is really easy for the customer. And I find number 1. There we go. So they start with number 1. And then we have the instructions for that. This is our 3040 grit tool. So we have a 3040 grit, that's the first step. We have a 7080 grit, it looks exactly the same as this. That second step is 2 steps of metals. And then we go to our transition, which is step number 3, and that's a resin. And then we go right up to, this is the transition tool. So this is the resin. So that's 100 grit. And they use that grit to remove any of the scratches left from the metal bonds in the concrete. And once they've done that, then they'll densify the floor, and we have that product coming as well. And then they'll go right up to the next step, which is a pour. They all look the same, but they are different colors on the back, so it's easy to identify them. This is the 200 grit. So they go to 200, 400, and 800, and they will get an extremely high quality finished polished floor We're working on, and I will be working on the actual training video for them. We have training videos. Frank has done some amazing training videos for all of our products and polishing in that using the edge, but we're going to do one specifically for using the Boss. Is there any questions on the polished concrete in the box side of things?
Just real quick, from a technical perspective, on medium concrete, this kit will deliver a DOI, distinction of image, of about 75 to 85. So at the 800 grit, it is highly reflective and has very, very high clarity. So you know, if you have a professional contractor that has to bring his work up to based on a spec, this will deliver pretty much any spec out there, or be comparable to any spec out there. And again, because we're leveraging speed, that's how we're able to make such a small machine, you know, polish so high. We're not dragging the tool; we're truly polishing at, you know, at 800 there. Your pad speed's like at 1,000. So you know, just imagine when you're polishing something and it's spinning at 1,000. It is deriving a high degree of shine.
Good. So I think we've covered everything. Is there anything that we haven't covered that any of you would like to raise a question on? No? Good.
Chemicals will be included in the polished box.
No, the chemicals are in their own chemicals in a separate box. So this will be the product, the tooling, and we have a separate box that will have the densifier, the sealer, and a cleaner in a separate box.
Just to elaborate on that, and the reason why we break it out into two systems is that, say you have a customer that these tools in this kit will easily do 2,500 square feet plus. So we've got you covered on the square footage. And when I say plus, like, I'd say like upwards of 5,000 square feet that you're gonna be able to grind. But you can't sell the same amount. Every job is gonna be different. So the chemicals cover 700 square feet. So if the customer had, you know, 1,400, 1,500 square feet, you'd sell them one of these kits and two chemical kits. You know, again, they've got 2,100 square feet. You don't need to sell the guy 3 of these boxes, right? You can. That's why we have it in 2 separate systems, because the chemicals they come in 1 gallon containers, and you can only ever get 700 square feet out of chemicals just from the volume of it. So that's why you know, they work together, but they're just sold as 2 separate pieces.
Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, we want to thank you all for the time you've taken. Angie and Tad will be happy to provide you with the brochures that they're working on right now. And if there's any questions that goes beyond what they can handle, they'll definitely come get in touch with us, and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible.
And just to touch on that point, Workmaster will be doing the technical services. So you'll still be dealing with your reps or, you know, all your ecosystem there. And if there is a technical question that Virginia Abrasives can't field, we've got a system set up where it comes to us. So we cover the East Coast and the West Coast, so you're going to get technical coverage. So just rest assured that we're still committed to the system moving forward as well. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Frank. And this is Brian here, and thanks for attending.